In the news this week, child abuse victims campaign for harsher sentences to offenders.
Plus, Muslims slammed Sonia Kruger's remarks as she denied her views are racist.
And on Western Perspective, do the crime, do the time. The effect of child abuse on communities in Australia.
This is the Evening News with Ivan Lung and Daniel Stanislav.
Good evening. Child abuse victims are demanding tougher penalties for perpetrators with a petition launched on the internet. The opposition has urged the state government to introduce a data structure to record sentencing history. Nelson Liu has this exclusive report.
It's a sickening crime against children, but Kate Edwards says too many child abusers are getting away with it.
It's vile that anyone should lay a hand on a child.
The anti-child abuse campaigner is calling for harsher penalties for offenders in an online petition to prevent them from reoffending, with many offenders escaping full jail terms and life sentences.
They deserve tougher penalties. The penalties now, the sentencing that is happening now is beyond heinous. Children from the age of 7 weeks old are being abused and murdered.
Kate says it's a problem and the courts need to do better.
How can 3 months or 6 months how can that be enough?
The state government says WA is doing everything it can to combat child abuse with strong measures in place.
The state government's done a lot in that area, and I think we are appalled at the abuse and neglect of children.
But the opposition says it isn't enough and current sentences are inadequate.
We have been imploring them for 8 years now to start a database so that we can all look to see what sentences are being imposed.
The state government says WA's penalties for child abuse is adequate, but Kate Edwards says the legal system has failed victims and their families affected by physical and mental abuse. Nelson Liu, WAMN News.
The backlash towards Sonia Kruger's comment continues as activists accuse her of racism. Ms Kruger later clarified for her remarks as the public continues a discussion on Muslim integration and immigration. Lucas De Paz has this report.
It was blunt, it was provocative. Sonia Kruger drew the ire of the community by stating that Muslims should not be allowed to enter Australia.
Personally, I would like to see it stop now for Australia because I want to feel safe, as all of our citizens do, when they go out to celebrate Australia Day. And I'd like to see freedom of speech.
After airing her comment on Channel 9's Today Show, she was heavily criticised by the Australian Muslim community for her controversial remarks.
I have complete respect for people of all races and religions. I acknowledge my views yesterday may have been extreme.
Meanwhile, No Room for Racism WA spokesperson Mazia Muhammad Ali believes Kruger's comments will only increase the vilification towards Muslims.
What's happening now is that people from groups like the Muslim community are constantly afraid, constantly watching their backs, because they don't know who is going to start attacking them at any given moment.
Ms Muhammad Ali believes that racism and bigotry needs to be addressed by its source rather than being treated as a band-aid solution. Lucas De Paz, WAMN News.
The crime rate is up again according to the latest data from WA Police. Perth has received a double-digit increase of 10.4%, while WA's overall crime figure has risen by 9%. Domestic violence, car theft, burglaries, stealing and damage offences also went up. Police Commissioner Carla Callaghan believes other measures should be looked at in order to allocate more officers back to the front line.
We've also said to government the answer is not always to employ more fully trained police officers, but to employ other employment types who can release existing police officers back to the front line.
The government has revealed its 4-year immunisation strategy to provide more support for vaccination. The latest document from the Health Department shows that fully vaccinated rate for 5-year-old children in WA has improved to 90%, while Aboriginal children in the same age group has reached 93.3%.
The lower the rate of people who are immunised, the higher the chance of a particular disease, whether it be whooping cough or mumps or rubella or measles, taking hold and spreading through the community and infecting people who are vulnerable.
The hunt for the missing ill-fated flight MH370 may be suspended in December this year, as the search in the Indian Ocean will soon be completed. Government ministers from Australia, China and Malaysia have stressed the suspension doesn't mean an end to the search, as the countries are seeking credible new information to locate the missing aircraft. MH370 disappeared on March 2014 during its flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Authorities later pinpoint the location of the doomed flight in the southern Indian Ocean.
Donald Trump has launched another scathing attack towards his rival Hillary Clinton, saying she has lack of good judgment to lead the United States. Mr. Trump vows to restore national safety and increase immigration restrictions. Earlier this week, Donald Trump picked the governor of Indiana, Mike Pence, as his running mate before he accepted Republican nomination as presidential candidate.
I'll take our rights over her any day in terms of competence. Forget it. Not for being nice or any of those things, who cares? I will take rights in terms of competence over her.
And finally this week, another fish company has been recognised for their sustainability efforts with a prestigious MSC certification award. Fisheries Minister Joe Francis said MSC independent certification will further enhance the deep-sea crab fisheries reputation as a quality sustainable seafood provider. It's understood WA's fishery industry worth $2.3 million, harvesting 140 tonnes of seafood every year.
It's a worldwide recognised standard, and there are many countries that will only buy MSC certified products.
This has been nearly a 2-year process to get the certification, and it's a very small fishery, but it's a valuable one, and it's what our lives revolve around.
And those are the top stories you need to know this week. We have the latest news on our website and Facebook.
Thanks for your company. Here's Nelson. Good night.
Bye.
Thanks, Ivan and Danielle. Hello and welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Nelson Liu.